Welcome to Hypnotic Authenticity. My name's Chris. I'm a practical, firmly grounded, feet on the floor hypnotherapist, and I'm based in Switzerland. This series of episodes of my podcast is looking specifically at boundaries, at people pleasing, at the subtle ways that we abandon ourselves in order to feel accepted or safe or understood, in order to not rock the boat. So I'm examining the patterns that drain you, the stories that keep you small, the fixed and limiting beliefs that imprison, and more importantly, the ways to escape it, the ways to embrace and expand the possibility of living with a clearer sense of self-respect, with a clearer sense of personal truth, of authenticity. So let's begin. I'm going to shine a light on an issue today that's a little bit sensitive, a little bit dicey, an area where people are pretty easily offended, gender differences. And in particular, I'm going to talk about an element of masculinity because it comes up a lot in a discussion of authenticity about what it is to be a man. And I'm not putting myself forward as some extraordinary example of manhood, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going to explain what I have come to understand. And if you want to read about this, you can look at there are many books on masculinity, but there's one in particular which is kind of interesting called No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. If you check that out, basically the sort of person that I'm talking to now, if you have a sense inside of you, the kind of femininity, that womanhood, if you were to meet a woman that you'd never met before, that basically they would be intrinsically okay, or good, before you even knew the first thing about them. Whereas your story about masculinity, if you met a guy that you'd never met before, there's already a little story in the back of your head which is saying, well, I don't know if men are good. Men can be violent, men can be arrogant, men can be shifty, they can lie, they can manipulate, they can rape, they can be outrageously aggressive. There is something about the male persona which is dangerous. If you have that story inside of your head, and you grew up in an environment where either it was difficult or impossible to express your emotions, or where you had very few or no strong male role models, or where the messages that you were receiving about masculinity from people that were important to you kind of transmitted the message to you that there's something kind of dodgy about masculinity. In short, if you grew up in an environment where it was very difficult to be yourself, it was very difficult to express yourself emotionally, and it was very difficult to get your needs met in a timely, fair, unconditional manner, well then it's quite likely that you have developed compensating coping mechanisms in your childhood that are now running on autopilot that are called nice guy symptoms, nice guy kind of syndrome. And what's going on is there is an implicit story running inside of your head that says, if I hide the negative aspects of masculinity, if I portray myself as a really nice, safe, predictable, kind, caring, giving individual, then people will love me, right? They'll feel good because what I'm doing for them, and in return, they'll kind of treat me like I'm perfect. And because a lot of the stories of negativity that are running inside of you have been created from this perception of a badness to masculinity. Typically what happens is that you're chasing the approval of women for this, okay? It's almost as if you can have the approval of women, then you must have superseded the negative elements of masculinity. Yeah? So it's a way of kind of getting the needs met, of dealing with the problems inside of you that you weren't able to meet when you were younger, when you were a child or a teenager, an early adult. But because of the learning mechanisms involved, the procedure by which you go towards getting your needs met is by being nice, yeah? By being safe, by not being all of the elements of masculinity that are supposedly dangerous or toxic. So the end result is that you're not yourself, right? The end result is that you're playing a role in somebody else's theatre. You're handing over your authenticity in an aim to get your needs met, but where you can't even express your needs because you're trying so hard to be a perfect man that obviously the perfect man wouldn't have any needs. He would be totally self-sufficient. He would never need to ask for anything. And so everything becomes a sort of a covert game of manipulation, a way of trying to get other people to deliver your needs to yourself because you feel at your heart that there is a dangerous part to yourself which must never be shown, but somehow, without expressing your needs, you need to get your needs met. End result is, because that just doesn't work, you kind of oscillate between being a nice guy and being a horrible guy, right? Because there is an element, a shame-based toxic element inside of you, which from time to time gets really furious because you're following what ought to be a positive working procedure, but which doesn't work. And so from time to time, that just becomes exhausting and annoying, and you kind of explode, and then you go back to being a nice guy, you try harder, doesn't work, you kind of explode, and you kind of swing. So you end up having wild mood swings. You end up desperately trying to keep the peace. You end up desperately trying to distract people from the flaws inside you. And because the core of the shame is around elements of being a man, you damp those down as much as possible. So you alienate yourself and you kind of make women your god. Yeah, like the way to demonstrate your intrinsic worth is to have the approval of women. If that's of interest, just scan the titles for the others. Some of them are going to mean a great deal to you. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If it resonates with you, then follow my podcast. I would also personally be really grateful if you might wish to leave a quick rating. It genuinely helps others to discover the podcast. If you personally would like more guided meditations, you want some deeper insights, you'll find all my links in the description. If you prefer a more visual boost, then you might want to check out my YouTube channel called Authentic Life Hypnosis. And if you're looking to do some deeper work that goes beyond one-way audio, then obviously you're very welcome to reach out. Equally, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.